is 7:01.
Yes.
Fantastic. Good evening, everybody. Like I said, it's 7:01. We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. We're going to start tonight by introducing our newest board member, Mrs. Erica Valina, and doing her oath of office. So Barbara, would you like to assist us with the oath of office?
We want to come up here. Okay. You can, yes. I believe this is how we do it.
Yes.
Repeat after me, please. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of the Library Trustee
of the office of the Library Trustee
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Welcome to the board, Erica. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Do you want to do just a brief introduction?
Sure.
Just a tiny bit about yourself.
I'm Erica Valina. I was born in Urbana, so I've been here a long time. I have a 12-year-old son. I was a teacher for 20 years, and now I supervise student teachers for the University of Illinois, early childhood and elementary. My mother was a librarian, and yeah, libraries are in my blood. I love libraries.
That's perfect. All fabulous reasons to come to the board. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Becky, are we ready for roll call attendance?
I think we are. Okay. Barbara?
Here.
Erica?
Here.
Beth?
Here.
Lupe. Here.
Mark?
Here.
Dane?
Here.
Here. Oh, Jane?
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Are there any additions, corrections, or modifications of the agenda for tonight? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Beth. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Barb. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Perfect, we have an approved agenda for tonight. Do we have any public comment? Okay. And so we'll move right into our presentations. 7.1, Examine Urbana. Lily Wilcock is back to share with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to go over to here. Do you want to have, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm just here for moral support.
So Examine Urbana. So a little bit about Examine Urbana, and this is something that always needs a little bit of clarification. The comprehensive plan of the city of Urbana has, before it is drafted, a couple of supporting documents, and those supporting documents help in the drafting of the plan and make it a much more understandable and transparent process for the people of Urbana and all the people who will be affected by the comprehensive plan, visitors, shoppers, everybody. To support for this future conversation and what that vision of the city of Urbana really is. Examine Urbana, where that fits in, it is the third supporting document that the comprehensive plan has come out, possibly the last supporting document until the draft plan. And so just as a quick refresher, there was a 2005 assessment report where staff researched extensively the successes and some of the things we can improve upon in the current comprehensive plan, the 2005 plan, and what we would like to do to improve upon that in the next comprehensive plan. And then there was last year a summary report of community engagement that we had in 2021. We had a really large, extensive community engagement over the course of 2021, and that had a brief 20-page document on talking, what our findings were. And just a quick refresher, I know I came here and talked a little bit about that, but for the new members here, the biggest thing that we found was the process was our finding. Establishing those relationships was really important for the comprehensive plan, but also better transparency and a wider breadth of people who are involved in the planning process and their voices. Now we're to Examine Urbana, and the Examine Urbana is the background information for a comprehensive plan. This part doesn't take a lot of the public input. This is prepared primarily by staff and experts across the community. And it's really trying to bring that information to the general public to give you the power to make those decisions of what the future of Urbana can be. Something that we heard a lot about in 2021 was why do you do this? Why do you do that? We got a lot of great feedback, but we also got a lot of really good questions. There's an opportunity for a discussion and to ask city staff, you know, this or that. And we actually provided in 2021 a couple of updates to the questions and report backs to people and said, hey, I'll follow up with you later for that. This is an opportunity to have a much more in-depth conversation to the collection of all those different topics. It is not something that the purpose of it was really to try to use local data as much as possible. So we tried to pull, hey Cherise, this is an expert in Examine Urbana, so don't need to refresh on anything. So the purpose of the Examine Urbana was really to try to put the people of Urbana first and forward, to really expand people's ideas of the places of Urbana. Maybe you have the 5 places that you really think of Urbana, you have about 50 people in your social network or 100 people, and we really want to expand that because there's 40,000 people in a lot of really creative, unique places across the city. And we want to highlight some of that for people. We do try to be brief, we try to be people focused. We want to be respectful of your time. We want to keep your attention. It is a fairly extensive website. Some would say too long of a website, but it is much shorter.
The IT department.
Yeah. And your browser might take a little while to cache all the photos, but that's okay. That's okay. We're patient people here in Urbana. And so we really wanted to also do something a little bit differently in our misconceptions and issues. Oftentimes these documents for comprehensive plans, they have trends and issues. Staff prepares, you know, some things that you need to hear in order to really be an informed participant in the comprehensive planning process. And that oftentimes can get pushed to the back of that document. It's more about the background information, the census tracts, the demographics, and then at the very end, there's like a 2-pager on, oh, by the way, here's all the big things you need to be thinking about. We try to put that kind of foremost of this, and we're really focused on what are the trends and issues for a comprehensive plan and for the future of Urbana. We didn't really do a lot for national trends or national economic trends. We really want to focus in on what the local context is for and the conditions for today in Urbana. So one quick thing is it is not a comprehensive viewpoint. This is enough to get you to be a stellar intern at the city in any department, and we hope. We really want you to have a really good idea of little bits and pieces of every kind of topic. Again, we want to be respectful of your time. So we really try to get just enough for you to be curious, but there's a lot of links inside the Examine Urbana where you can keep diving into topics that are really interesting to you. Or maybe there was a point that you need to know a lot more about. So try to also collect a lot of that. This is the first chapter to Examine Urbana. You can see that there's these 8 chapters. Now, I will point out that there's one chapter that's not, that we are not preparing at this point. It's really important, so of course we're including it. It's health and safety. There's a lot going on across the city on that. We need to kind of settle some other processes, and that way the city is not doing one thing on one side and another thing in another, and then we'll come back to that later. This introduction chapter is where you kind of get the tips and tricks. And I can't stress this enough. It is so important for you to wait for the page to load before you start to scroll. It's just really important. This website starts to get a little clunky if you just start scrolling right away and clicking on things before it's actually fully loaded. If you do come across that process or say the page is halfway through and it comes up to a video and it just starts to freeze for a little while, be patient with it. Wait a couple of seconds, maybe 10, that sounds like a good, nice number that we can handle. And I know I would struggle, but then hit refresh. The first couple times you load up the page, depending on your connection, your internet connection, it may need to cache a lot of those photos and videos, and it can be a little bit cumbersome there. For the most part though, we've had a lot of success with people trying out the website. Just be patient if you do encounter any problems. Hit refresh. We have some videos if you want to explore that further about how to use the website and some of the tips and tricks. And for the most part, I'm just going to quickly go over this introduction chapter. We've broken every chapter into sections. So in this Urbana's comprehensive plan, we'll go over some of the history of a comprehensive plan. We'll go over how a comprehensive plan works across the state and how that kind of works with the state of Illinois and why we have this legal authority and how it works with that. Then we also talk about it horizontally, how it works across the city, how it interacts with different local government agencies, and how also some of the things that comprehensive plans are not. Then we also have a section for an overview of Urbana. There's just some really high-level trends we wanted to get out of the way. You know, some certain things about demographics and housing, and just the really this is a fact about Urbana, this is a fact about Urbana, this is a fact about Urbana. Once we get that stuff out of the way, we invite you to check out all the other chapters. I like to read them in order. I think that makes a little bit more sense, but I understand if you see something and you want to beeline straight to it. A lot of these chapters will also have a lot of that same navigation bar, and at any point you can always go up to that corner where there's these 4 squares, and you can go see your navigation, your remote control, and press any of the chapters to load them. So what we talk about in these chapters and everything, for instance, development and taxes, we will go through things like the history of development in Urbana. Again, it's a brief introduction, but it's helpful in placing what we look like the way we do today. We'll go into the last 50 years, then the last 10 years of development, kind of we'll try to dispel some of the biggest misconceptions we've also heard, and also show you a lot about some things that we maybe haven't thought about before in development. This whole chapter is development and taxes. The two are married together for the city of Urbana. It's really important to understand the relationship, and there's a lot of misconceptions about that relationship. And so we'll go through how we regulate development, how we incentivize development, and then tie that back to development and how its relationship with taxes. Try to kind of provide you with as much information as you're willing to, brain space as you're willing to give us. Each chapter, at the end of it, will have a future considerations section. And I'm gonna go to here. I'm gonna wait patiently. 10 seconds to load. Yeah, if at 10 seconds, I'm gonna refresh.
May I ask a quick question while it's loading?
Yeah.
Can community members link to this from the Urbana Free Library website?
I am not in charge of the Urbana Free Library website, but you can
Or is
post
it a
wherever you
resource
like.
or something that we could connect people to?
I think we might have retweeted it.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Oh, cool.
I thought we did, but I will double check.
Yeah, and it's on the city's website. There's actually a really very neat, I think it's really cool. There's a lovely staffer who actually set up a short URL for us. So if you go to the city's website, it's www.urbanaillinois.us. But if you replace that www with examine, you get this, which is pretty cool. Makes it easy to remember. Okay, well, I've given up. I'm going to hit this.
And just another aside, anyone who has read this said, "Oh my gosh, I learned so much."
Mm-hmm.
Even if you are really, really attuned, you've lived here a while in Urbana, you will find something that you didn't know.
If you're really into a particular topic, you may feel like, boy, I just wish we just had a lot more information about geothermal or whatever you're really into. But you'll oftentimes find that because we're covering a lot of things and you're in energy environment and you're really engulfed in it, you might find that there's things that you didn't know about, which was a really exciting feedback to get. We've taken this to about 5 boards and commissions at the city to have them review it. And oftentimes, not all the time, but often the times, a person will be like, I wish you talked more about this thing that I'm really into. And we have to first ask, how long did it take you to read the whole thing? Because we need to keep that in balance. But oftentimes that feedback also comes back with, but I really learned a lot about X, Y, and Z. So I hope you do too.
And Lily's also told the commissions that this is really written for your neighbor. It's not written
Yes.
for you. You know that, the subject matter, and you know the depth of it. It's written for your neighbor who really doesn't know. And it's in hopefully plain English that everybody can understand.
Yeah, it's a great time to say, for instance, to these future considerations at the end, to kind of say, well, we're clearly not Paris, but what about things like 15-minute cities could we grow and develop more like in the next 20 years? What about having convenient locations to buy things close to your home, or a third place to go to, like a library or a bookstore, or what about those third places that can be close to in your proximity or your neighborhood? So it's all sorts of different ideas and concepts from places. And then a great time to tell Urbana's story. This is Kevin Sanderson. He's fantastic. He's the city arborist. You should all get to know him. He's great. But he loves trees, as you can tell. And also to kind of challenge some things too, right? How do we explore those costs of expanding development on our outskirts? The last 50 years we've seen we've almost halved our population density. What does that do for a community in the state of Illinois where population and population density has a huge role to play with how we pay for things for local government? And also, is it a sustainable, and what the infrastructure costs, what those service costs are that can just compound and compound and compound with that development pattern. I'm not going to give away any spoilers. There's a whole research section in it. And also,
You have to read it.
you do have to read it, yes. But I feel like we're in good crowd. This is a good crowd for
Yes.
And so, also challenging a little bit about, well, if things like expanding your borders is really expensive on infrastructure, and those costs are only rising and rising, and services is only getting more expensive, and we have threats of declining revenue. We've already seen declining revenue in the community. At what point do we need to start really thinking about, providing spaces for people to live next to job centers, places where people work, walkability, that ability to get a coffee, close to your neighborhood or in your neighborhood. At what point do we have that conversation, and what does that look like for you? Really put you in the role of, you're the city administrator, you're the mayor today, and we have to give you those tools to make those decisions and provide that feedback. Now that you've got a little bit about Examine Urbana, this is all leading into this next part of the comprehensive plan. This summer, we're going to be doing another activity for the comprehensive plan, an engagement activity. It will be an interactive website. It will not be kind of what do you like about Urbana, what do you see as a challenge to Urbana like we did in 2021. It's going to be more about trade-offs. One of the biggest and most important things to understand about Urbana is that money issue, that we have a lot of needs and services. We have declining resources to deal with that, and what does that mean for us if we do a comprehensive plan where we address everything and we're going to do it all, because all of it really is important. Truly, this is like serious lily face. It's all very, very important. But will it be feasible? Will we do anything well if we say that we're going to do it all? So this activity is going to be something that's going to challenge that. And it's going to put you in that future decision maker role, and you're going to provide your feedback by saying, well, if we have to prioritize, we have to do this, this is how I'm going to spend it, and we're going to have approximate dollar amounts, but a very small little budget that you can do this with in order for us to grow sustainably in the future, but focus in on how we can do that the best, how we can be the best Urbana, and meet those challenges of the future. So, in order for you to be the most informed decision maker, the best city administrator, mayor, resident, town cheerleader, you need to know as much as you can about what the situation is, what about Urbana, expand our idea of Urbana. Comprehensive plans don't deal with the hyper-local. They don't deal with neighborhood issues. They deal with citywide issues. And what they can do is they can say, hey, we're going to look at this neighborhood issue for different areas, but we're not going to make a statement that we're going to do X, Y, and Z, because that looks different in every neighborhood, and that's not something that the comprehensive plan does very well. But what the comprehensive plan does very well is then going back and saying, we are going to make the time and the space to go back to this neighborhood and address the real issues and have a more complete conversation about it, for instance. Any questions?
How permanent is this? Is this permanent or is it temporary, the website?
We own the
Good
server
question.
that this is on, which is super neato. Is that very permanent? That depends, not to sound like skeptical IT person, but software does break, especially ones that are maintained by us. Not like, oh, Urbana. No, I'm not saying it like that.
Not the Urbana us.
Not us.
Urbana
No,
us.
your staff has so many resources to stay up on the latest software copy or update or breaks.
I get it.
Yeah. Stop. That's what
But I guess what I mean is this something, because like everything that you've got with the Examine Urbana,
Yeah.
I think it's a great website for people who've never seen Urbana. So
Yeah.
it'd be great if we could keep it up.
Yes.
I guess that's what I'm thinking.
It'll be up for as long as you'll let it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We really do want it to be a resource,
Yeah.
for anybody, for council. If you've got
Because
a
people don't
constituent-
always go
You have a
to-
constituent that doesn't understand something, hey, there's a great chapter here for you to read and learn more about that.
Frankly,
But
there's
not only that,
people.
for touristy.
Absolutely.
For tourists, that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking. For
absolutely.
People who may make Urbana a destination place, like that, I think, I kind of looked
Yeah.
at it a little bit, I'm
Yeah.
very busy today, sorry. But, so, but,
Plenty of time.
it's,
Yes.
what I've seen of it, it's like, this would be great, just even, like for a link on BCC.
Yeah, I think it's also, some things that play really well for that showing Urbana in the best possible way, like BCC will oftentimes do to attract visitors.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of challenging issues though inside it too as well. So it's a really great place if you are new to Urbana, but also if you've been a resident of Urbana for 40 years and you've participated in planning, there can be a lot of still misconceptions, and we need to kind of be on top of giving you the best, most factual information that we can provide about what the day-to-day looks like and how to improve for the future. Like, what are the trends that we're seeing today, and if we don't do anything to address those trends, those particularly, the more negative, harmful ones, we won't be their best Urbana that we need to be in the future.
Yeah.
But Sharice, the arts and culture chapter,
Mhm.
that's your sales tool. That is one that sells our community. You read that and you will be blown away. And you are very close by being a council member to know what Urbana's really involved with. You will not believe that chapter and the things the economic impact of arts and culture in Urbana is just tremendous. And so that really does play.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm Andrea Rudy with the City of Urbana.
Yeah.
Andrea Rudy.
And how that really relates to the comprehensive plan is
She's
that
the
people need to know. People need to know about what the impact of this small investment, relatively small for the impact that it has, though it can feel very, very big for some, especially staff time. But what that really has as far as a regional impact, and what that really means for kind of the cultural identity of Urbana for the future, and how does that get sustained? What are the challenges? There certainly are some. There's some pretty good future consideration questions. You can't skip to the end though. You have to read the whole thing before you get there.
You don't find out that Voldemort dies right in the middle.
There's no Horcruxes, I swear.
And oops, I hope I didn't do a spoiler. Voldemort dies. Anyway.
Does anybody have any other questions for Lynn tonight?
No, I just
Bring us
comment,
back
you know,
here a little bit.
I do think this is brilliant. Now, I have had the fortune to do a lot of world travel, and it's interesting because if we're going to go somewhere, first I'll look at a site like this, and first I'm kind of looking at what's the arts, what's the culture, what's this, but then I like going down the rabbit hole of look, they have this tax structure, or maybe it's just me, and go and want to have a bigger understanding. But I'm thinking parents of University of Illinois students who students might be moving on to residence and then moving into Urbana, and parents are looking for a lot more detailed information about their students' lives these days. Different than when I was a student, parents were like, we figured it all out. But, it's a different time, which is fine. And so I'm just thinking of all the various audiences besides just Urbana citizens that might be wanting to learn about the city, but I think there's going to be others who will be interested as well. So
I
really
hope
like
so.
this.
And I hope that they also look at it and they say, I wonder if my community is having some of these similar issues. And maybe that should reframe some of the things that misconceptions I've said about it, certain things. Because a lot of communities are struggling with these. Some of the issues covered in here are not things that are uncommon in Illinois communities. While you will find that there's communities, even in Champaign County, that have vastly different financial outcomes, as you probably could imagine. There is a lot of things that are very relevant to every community, and I hope that that's something that anybody who's looking into it and said, man, I really want the deep dive. I want to know what the issues, what the trends are. What are the positives? What are the cool stories? What are all the neat things that people are doing across Urbana? But then also start thinking, well, maybe this is something that I'm experiencing in Park Ridge, Illinois, or Burr Oak, DeKalb. I'm an Urbana girl. I should stop trying to
Go
off
Ridge. Carroll, Mound City.
Yeah.
All right. What a fantastic presentation. Thank you for your
Thank you
energy
for having
and
me.
enthusiasm.
I'd just like to add something.
Yes.
Lily will be graduating with her master's degree in urban and regional planning this semester at University of Illinois, so she will be walking across the stage here in just a couple of weeks, so just great job. This has been a great project.
All right, thank you. Dawn, it looks like you're up next with a building project and building program. Quick update.
Quick update.
Quick updates.
And it's tough act to follow, that's for sure. So I've got 4 different things I wanted to tell you about. First of all, the architects. We've had 2 Zoom meetings or Teams meetings with the architects over the last couple of weeks. Saw a first round of initial drawings that they put together based on their trip here, their in-person trip here. We gave them some feedback and they turned right around pretty quickly and gave us revised drawings that we are very excited about. We gave them further feedback, they're further refining them, but we are feeling really good about the direction that it's going. So hopefully we'll have something to present soon. In terms of the air handler, we had an on-site meeting with the engineers, a week or so ago, and they took a tour and looked at all the equipment, looked at the spaces, and so they're currently designing our system, and they're hopeful to have a really good idea of what it needs to be by early May, so we can factor it into the fiscal '24 budget. For the building program, I had an initial meeting with Joe Huberty, the architect, because he is going to help us take the building program and make it, size it down a little in a way, they've got a process for this, and they've done it a lot. So he talked with me for quite a while. We compared the blueprints for the building and how the building is actually being used. So being able to say relative importance for various areas or various functions. So I was just able to give him some insight into how the building's being used. So we'll see what they come back with, but he seemed very confident that he could help us to pare it down. And then lastly, the staff parking lot, the contract is signed and it is scheduled to kick off in May and also to be completed in May. So that's very exciting.
That's been what, 3-4 years?
It was pre-COVID when we started talking about it. So yeah, and if you've driven through the parking lot, you know how a roller coaster of a ride it is, and it's going to be great.
I just remember Craig Schonkweiler was here to tell us about that, and he's been gone like a while.
I'm sure you and I started at the same time. And that was one of our first first board meeting.
Yeah.
So-
Like Sean Weiler, Craig has been, he's in Indianapolis or something and been there for a bit of a while.
That is example one of back burnering something.
Yeah.
Pandemic.
Pandemic, yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
not
those,
just discussing this.
those are fantastic
So
updates.
that's
So,
fine.
thanks,
Yeah,
Dawn.
thank
Any
you.
questions for Dawn? Okay. Celeste, we are ready for our fiscal year 24 budget update.
Great, well, I have for you, I thought we could go through this document, knowing that, given what Dawn just said about capital expenses, we don't have any prices right now for any of these large expenses. So for example, the East Air Handler Unit, it could be $350,000. It could be $600,000. We have an estimate from years ago in the $350,000 range, but
Right.
we just don't know what it costs now. So, same thing with the Cirque AV area renovation. We budgeted a certain amount of money because it's what we had from some donor money. Same thing with the staff parking lot. That we do know the price, but there are a number of unknowns that it's gonna swing within the hundreds of thousands of dollars range. And so we will have quotes at the beginning of May. So for the May board packet, you will see a revised budget that's gonna have more money coming out of our fund balances because we're gonna need to pull from the fund balances. The good news is we have money in there and we have it in two places. So we have our general fund balance, but we also have what's called the 803s, the library special reserve fund that we set up a few years ago with stashing some money there for this kind of project. Also, the foundation has pledged some money and has raised some money for the Cirque AV area and for Megan's room renovation. So we do know that there'll be extra revenue coming in that way. But right now, we just, who knows? Who knows? So we are very happy that it's timing out well for us. So know that there will be some changes. So we call this our baseline budget, given the constraints and guidelines from the city. They look at our current budget and say, add 3% to the base of your wages. We have a step increase scale based on seniority for people. For some of the steps, people get a raise on top of the base increase. And then for some of those steps, they don't, they get an extra vacation day. And then also there's a cost of living, so to speak, or for the other non-staff lines. So we apply them evenly across the board, and what's gonna happen between now and next month also is looking at the lines that don't need an increase because they're funded well, like maybe postage is just fine, but we can put that money, and we've been prioritizing IT and facilities. So we are going to go ahead and kind of swoop through there, see what doesn't need to be increased based on the requests that staff have given, and then put as much towards IT and facilities as we can to help with these ongoing costs. And to make sure that we're prepared for the future, because at some point we're gonna need to work on that roof. And what we know is we need to put aside more money than we have been, and we are turning a corner with some of the work that we've been doing with, and if I could just take a second to say how pleased I am to work with Dawn and Rachel, my two associate director colleagues. Welcome, Rachel. They came up with the brilliant reorg that we have done and are doing that's gonna work with the changing of the physical spaces, save a lot of time. We're gonna save a lot of time in having Rachel and Gretchen, the head of circulation, talking to the same staff because they report to two different people. They're all gonna report to either Gretchen now or Brian Robertson in charge of acquisitions. So there's gonna be a lot less duplication of effort, and we're taking the checking in and off-desk, things that could be off-desk tasks, and putting them behind the closed doors so that when you walk up to the circulation desk or the other service desk, staff are there focused on you, the patron. So we're really excited about being able to save some money because it's faster to check in when you're not being interrupted. Staff feel really good about being able to focus on the patrons in front of them and not being pulled in multiple directions. And we've assigned staff different responsibilities or different, a main team leader than a secondary team leader that focuses on the strengths they've expressed. So we're very pleased. We think this is gonna work out well, and it's their idea, and worked with the management team to really pull it together. So when you see how successful you are, it's Dawn and Rachel. Thank you. So we know that that's gonna change things too. We're budgeting kind of flat in those departments though, because what we know is renovations won't happen until after summer. When that is, we're not sure. But by the time you do the renovation, get the staff in and change the workflow, we're gonna be to Christmas at the very least. And so it seemed safest to budget staff-wise as if it were flat, and then we can look and see what's happening next year. Are we getting more people coming in that need reference help? Can we shift staff from, let's say, the circulation desk up to reference so that we can provide better service there? It gets pretty busy in the lab, so we'll be working through those decisions this year. In fiscal 2025, I think we all think it'll be a more stable landscape. We'll have a better, hopefully all the imminent capital expenses taken care of, and we can pause for a moment and regroup. So this is a strong first draft, but know that May will be a little bit different, again, because of other pieces coming through. We do meet the state standards. Erica, you have a copy of the state standards. As a library, we get money from the state, and we need to show progress towards or meeting the standards. So there are 2 standards that impact the budget very specifically. There are guidelines about how much money to spend on staffing as well as staff benefits. We meet both criteria there. There's also a standard on materials, and there's 2 different ways that libraries look at that. You can either look at literally just the books and DVDs and CDs, the physical materials themselves. They want you to be at about 12%. Or some libraries purchase things pre-processed, pre-stamped, pre-stickered, and those libraries roll in those costs, and they look at everything from having the online check-in, check-out system, participating in interlibrary loan, and the staff costs. They look at everything. So we run our numbers both ways. We definitely meet the state standards of 12% both ways, so we feel good about that we are providing value to our community in the way that the standards recommend. And so then we talk briefly about the revenue as it's coming in. The big blue ball, it's mostly property taxes. It's 85%, last year's 84%. That is no surprise. We seem to be doing well enough, having not had fines coming in this year. That was about $15,000. Things seem to be going well. Other revenues are fairly flat, except some of the gift money coming in from the Friends of the Library has decreased. So that's another thing we're looking at right now is the impact of that. Fewer donations are coming in given some staging kind of issues that we had early on. So we used to get between $17,000 and $20,000 a year. This year it looks more like it'll be 12 or 13. And that impacts us in a couple of ways. We buy books for our collection with that money. We also buy the giveaway books for summer and winter reading program prizes and the 1,000 books before kindergarten. The good news is we actually have balances. So the Friends money lives in the 810s, those gift funds. So we have balances, and so we will, when you look, this budget's pretty flat compared to last year, except I showed less revenue coming in for the Friends. But we expect to pull from the adult and children's and archives book fund balances. Because we can. Children's is much smaller though, so we've got like a year there and then we're out of money for children's because we've been spending that money regularly. So we will be looking at ways to perhaps recommend to the Friends that instead of splitting the money as it comes in, 45% adult, 45% youth, and 10% archives, maybe skewing it more towards a larger percent for children's and then a smaller percent for the other 2. So Rachel and I and Lauren, who does programming and gives the books away, we're going to talk about that and make a recommendation to the Friends. So that's a little bit granular, but just know that we're aware of that being a pinch point for us, and the giveaway books for kids is very important to what we do and what the Friends want us to do with that money.
I have a quick question. Do they do their budgeting the same timeline that we do ours?
They do now. They had been May to April, and they had just switched their fiscal year with their IRS. And their next book sale is end of June, so please come and tell your friends.
That was my other question. My question was going to be, do we have any kind of receptacle that if somebody just wanted to put $10 and say, this is for the library or something like that? Do we have anything like that for donation purposes if they want to?
They give it to the circulation clerks, actually,
Oh,
and sometimes
really?
the archive staff, yeah.
Oh,
So
excellent.
they, and then we bring it in as a donation to the library at the
Okay.
cash register, so it's tracked.
Okay. I was just wondering if anybody ever, does something like that.
They do. Sometimes it's like a round up for good kind of a thing, and sometimes it's just like, staff here were amazing today, here's $10. I'm like, oh,
It's like a tip. Oh,
like a tip.
okay.
Good thinking maybe something that's set for donations that might spark that idea.
Something, yeah, that's what I was thinking too, something that may,
Well,
a little box, but the money goes underneath.
then you have to manage that though, and
Yeah.
that's a, cash management is a thing that is tricky.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Okay, just thought I'd ask.
Absolutely. We like all the ideas. So on the third page, I've got a chart that shows, we showed the revenues, then we see the expenses, it's much more diffuse. You're gonna see here that circulation has got a huge chunk, which it did not have last year. Because the adult and youth services staff and the circulation staff in most cases were the same people, they would split their time in both. For budgeting purposes, we put them all into circulation this year. And that's where we're gonna keep them, and some of them, the people who were shelvers are now gonna be library assistant ones, they're gonna move to the acquisitions department, you'll see that switch. Right now, Rachel is in circulation, she will move to be an adult in administration. So we've got a couple of staff movements that will happen too. But this circulation will have the largest budget because it's got all the people who are on the service desks. And that is a lot of the service that we provide. And we're gonna keep the books and other materials in adult and youth services where it's lived, so in the financial system, we can just go back and have a nice continuous look at trends and such. So we're gonna keep the adult and youth services line going for that purpose. So you will see that next year. The cafe is closed, so there's no revenue or expenses shown here. And we do get the occasional question, but we do recommend that people, check out our local cafes. And there's plenty of good options, and staff do that too.
Are they allowed to bring stuff on the library floor and drink coffee or something?
Closed beverages, yes, throughout the library, and then we have food in the older part of the building still, just like we did before, with the tables by the windows and such.
Okay.
But no hot Cheetos at the computers. The orange fingers. So we talked a little bit about the external pressures. I'm not going to obviously read that, so there are a number of things to think about. We are unsure of what the Paid Leave for All Workers Act is going to do for us, in part because they're still working out the administrative rules. Becky's going to attend a webinar tomorrow about that. We are, given the entirety of the leave that we offer to people, we are right there at what total number of hours we need to offer to people. But this new law says that people need to be able to take, for any reason, on demand, like a personal day, up to 40 hours a year. Our personal days for full-time staff cap out at 24 hours a year. And our sick time for hourly employees is very close, or right on percentage-wise, what we need to offer, and then we will need to let people accrue more. But again, it's sick leave only, and so this leave is for any purpose. So we are going to be watching and learning, and by the end of the year, we'll come to you for the leave policy and likely say, we would like to call this, smoosh things over into personal leave so that we've got it covered. And then people will accrue less sick leave if we go that path, but they will still get the same number of hours, and they will be able to use them more flexibly, because that is what is, that's what it looks like. But also, we've been cautioned that the law could be amended anytime between now and December, because that is a thing that happens. So we are gently touching around the edges and making sure that we're in good shape generally, but again, expect something later in the year. And we will keep you in touch. Dawn and Becky are on it. The USD 116 also has got less money from the UIUC coming to us, so it's not a ton of money, but anytime you see money that's not coming back, it's a little bit sad. That is what it is. Utility costs went way up.
Oh, God.
It looks like it's coming back down next year for the different reasons, and luckily personal property replacement tax is almost double. So, it's about double. So that is a boon to us, and that could change next year. So we are very aware that we'll take the PPRT when it comes in and go from there. Now, the archives is an interesting proposition. When Donica left, she had two different ideas of ways that we could manage the archives going forward. And so Rachel and I are looking at the different ideas about staffing levels and hours of being open and such. We're looking at how the busyness, I just put it in here, but how busy is that desk compared to other desks? How many of the patrons that use the archives are Urbana residents and taxpayers versus county residents or outside of that. The county does, and the court does give us some funds to provide either A, access, or B, storage of their items, but it does not touch the cost of running the archives. So we are looking at the different options so that we can bring you some suggestions to, again, evaluating what Donica recommended in a couple of different ways, and then talking with staff. So Rachel is supervising staff directly now and has already started the conversations to see what they think. Processing increased this year because we cut a couple hours a day because they weren't busy hours for us. And patrons are not complaining, they seem happy, and what we do know is people like it when we say, here are more collections that are available, because we have a backlog, as all places do. And this is not just the Chanute and News Gazette backlog, it is a backlog because people know that this is a special place and they trust us with their collections to make them available. So that will always be the case, but we are really very interested in making sure that we can process as many items to get them in the catalog so that people can know they exist and then research with them.
We have a lot of courier stuff too, don't we? Macrofiche or something?
We do. I can't say how much is a lot, but we do.
Because I was thinking, because I've come and looked up stuff for the Courier, because the Courier was the progressive newspaper back in the day. Like, black folk did not subscribe to the News Gazette, they subscribed to the Courier. And then the Courier stopped, and trust me, News Gazette isn't, you know, it's very little, been very difficult for them to regain that to get that circulation that the Courier had, even 40 years later. So I think one of the things we should maybe, I don't know, put on the website even when we're talking about the archives is that we also have microfiche from the Courier newspaper, because a lot of folks would, I think would probably be more interested in seeing what kind of snapshots from the past. Everybody knows we have the News Gazette archives and stuff, you know, pictures and everything. But I think it would just be good to also let people know that we have the that instead of the Courier, not just, you know, newspaper, old newspaper, microfiche, but the Courier in general.
I'll check that and see.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And then the auditors recommend a certain level of fund balance. And so he and I are talking through that, and he had recommendations of 2 different fund balance policies that he and I talked through, and I will bring those to you next month as well. So that will help us as we move ahead. So then the next page is the actual budget itself. It's broken down by the different funds, which are listed at the top. There's the general fund, the special reserve fund, the trust fund, and the rebuilding fund. There's a $1,500, we have to pay taxes one more time for a period of like January, February, March, before the building was taken down and we were able to take it off the tax rolls. So that's what that is for the Weber building, which is, it was across the street. Then we have the gift fund, which again, primarily I went with what we did, the trust fund. That's on the next, like page 3 of the actual budget itself. I echoed a lot of what was in there. You're gonna see that the furniture line went up. We're gonna clear out that line. We've got about $55,000 in there, and we wanna buy furniture for the front room, and in buying just some furniture for a different part of the library, we saw how expensive it was. And we're just gonna we are recommending too that we spend that down, because we need new furniture. And then the building, that's the building fund, is the $1,500. So we've got a couple at the end you can take a look through later, the IT planning for the future and facilities planning for the future. So some of these things are in, most of the IT is in the budget to make sure that we can take care of those things and keep ahead of voice over IP and new servers and such. And then Mike's very tiny, I'll probably reprint this landscape for everyone that needs that. And you can see where we have been and where we are, where we're going as far as looking at. So that is the budget presentation with your budget document. Any initial questions?
So just for our newer board members too, so this is the baseline. We will see another version of this in May that we will then vote to approve the next version. So this is kind of the information stage to start understanding where we're at. And, you know, asking questions if you have those.
Yeah, please reach out to me, let me know.
All right. Does anybody have any questions about the budgeting process tonight? Okay. Celeste, you're still up with an update on the strategic plan.
So May is a big month for us. This month, April, you might have seen the QR code. We're asking people to complete a survey after they attend a library program. Next month is going to be the strategic plan refresh survey. And then we will have 3 dates, which I will email you also, but they're going to be on May 16th from 12 to 1 and in person in here, focus group. And then 6 to 7 that evening, and then also May 17th, 6 to 7, a Zoom meeting as well to get people who are interested in giving a different kind of feedback. So we're excited to move the process ahead.
Okay, fantastic presentations tonight, lots of information for us to take in. We can move on to our consent agenda. Does anybody wish to separate any of the items from the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, I will read off our list and then I will ask for a motion to approve. So we are looking at the board meeting minutes for March 14th, 2023. Payroll for March 24th totaling $111,262.85. Payroll for April 7th, $118,687.66. Bills for March 16th, 2023, $23,937.24. Bills for March 23rd, 2023, $21,619.42. Bills for March 30th, 2023, $21,338.53. And bills for April 7th, 2023, $34,024.16. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
the consent agenda.
Thank you, Jane. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sharice. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Thank you. We have an approved consent agenda. Now looking at our individual action items, we have 9.1, the Dell invoice for $15,533.76. Is there a motion to approve?
So move approval of the Dell invoice.
All right, I've got Jane there. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dan. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is approved. We have a lovely Ameren invoice for $10,087.54 for the board. Is there a motion to approve? We were so close.
So moved, this is my favorite one, you know.
Thanks, Beth. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Sharice.
Next month for sure.
Yeah, right, we're gonna get there. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we have a resolution 2023-08 to accept the Urbana Arts Grant. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval of the art grant.
Thanks, Mark. I got Mark first. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Yeah, we'll take the money. And for 9.4, we have fiscal 23 budget amendments. These are in the director's report. Is there a motion to approve?
I just had a quick question on that one. The first one about legal services and just the shuffling there.
Yep.
I know it was taken out of other professional services, but it was $4,400 for legal, $3,000 from other, but then another $1,500 was pulled from insurance.
We didn't have as many staff taking insurance, so we had a little bit of bonus money. Yeah. Yeah, other lines are getting tight.
Yeah, just a curiosity because it seemed like everything should have come from other, and I wasn't clear why that came from insurance.
Yeah, we don't have any more money in there to pull, that's why.
Got it.
And because it's in the same, the 0-1 is the centralized cost, we're allowed to move money within that.
Right.
Good question. Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Move approval of budget amendment.
Thanks, Dan. I got Dan. Jane, I'm going to take that as a second.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on to our discussion items. In front of us as a board, we also have our library board bylaws, which will be due for us to vote on and approve in the summer? September or August? So we wanted to start the conversation tonight about what we want as a board that process to look like. Staff have been gathering some information about our peer libraries and kind of what their board bylaws look like. We can make this a refresh, just kind of looking over and updating. We can take a deeper dive and look into it. So I'm just looking for any discussion or questions about looking at the bylaws. And also if someone is interested in particular in just kind of leading this effort to look over it and make recommendations for any changes. So any thoughts on the bylaw process?
If it's due in September, August, September, is when are we going to actually start on reviewing?
So we would be starting now. We would be hopefully tasking someone with kind of taking that initial look and looking at the peer library information. That way we can make a presentation to the board for any changes and then allowing time for that and then eventually voting before September. So looking at, probably June before we'd even see something, just giving ourselves time to look it over, make changes, discuss it as a board, and then eventually vote on it before September.
So we all get copies of the bylaw, a copy of the bylaws or whatever the newest whatever, and read over it and have a discussion about it again, or?
Yeah, when would we typically, I mean, obviously they're available, the bylaws are on the website now, so anybody
Okay.
can look at them at any time. They're
Mhm.
published there and easily viewable.
Okay, so,
The question I think before us is, do we want to do a refresh? Are we comfortable with kind of looking at them as they are? Are there changes that we want to make? That we should be looking at updates.
well, can we do two things together, like, because we have, when was the last time we actually looked at the bylaws? When was the first time I?
How often do we do it?
Well, it's every 3 years.
About every 3
I
years.
was gonna say, I've looked at them, I think once since I've
Yeah,
been on the board.
I think I've only looked at them once too. And since then, we have new members.
Mhm.
I think it would be good to do a refresh, or review, and maybe an edit, if need be.
I think
But
one of,
at least they can bring new, if they have any new ideas, Dan, Mark, Erica, if they have any new ideas or something that maybe, they'll see something that we didn't see.
Sure.
That's my.
well, and one way to streamline the process, I think that I'd like to kind of put before the board is just having one or two board members that want to take that initial look, to look at the board, or to look at the bylaws, maybe look at the peer library information and make some initial recommendations. Instead of it kind of coming, make some recommendations that we bring to the board for further discussion. So just kind of tasking that out a little bit for a couple people to take that deeper dive look at it first. So is anybody interested in kind of working on that refresh?
I can support it, but I don't know if I can be like the main person.
Does anybody want to help Mark out? Mark has a team, a dynamic duo.
I have so much to do.
Also, if I can interject, so we have information, staff did go through. One of the questions that came up last time had to do with term limits
Oh, yes, thank you.
for officers. And so the other issues that had come up, there's some things we need to have in there, like the state law says if you need to attend remotely, there are only a couple of different reasons legally that you can attend remotely, like Jane is right now, for example. So there are things we need to include, and there are other things that other libraries include that we don't, or vice versa. And term limits is one of the things. So we looked at the number of libraries we had looked at last time of college town libraries of a certain population, and then we looked at peer libraries in the state of Illinois. So we do have current data on, with links to the full bylaws, as well as some specifics about term limits, because again, that was a question that came up. Decided at that point not to have term limits. But that was one of the questions that was a bigger discussion point than other things that came up last time. So that's a starting
There's
point.
also the voting tie process, whether or not
Oh,
we wanted
right.
to add. So if you guys remember, we were dealing with the architects, we had that situation was what if we have a tie vote?
Mm-hmm.
So writing that into the bylaws would be a potential small change, but something that would need to go into the bylaws in a refresh process. So some smaller, simple things, some bigger kind of organizational
Yeah,
things.
so there actually are some kind of issues that we need to hash out regarding that, so.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, some will be kind of easier to discuss, others are, a little bit more, we need the
Mhm.
information and input on, so.
I mean, I could look at, I would be happy to go through this stuff, but like you, I don't know that I feel like an expert on bylaws by any means.
No, but you might be fresh on it.
Get fresh eyes.
And we have excellent support to help, yeah, so I mean, that would be wonderful if you guys wouldn't mind to take a first look at it. Celeste can help support and provide some additional information, and then, we can certainly, bring it before the board to kind of talk about it and see where we go from there. Ultimately, it will be the entire group that gets to discuss it, so. Okay. I hear some of our new board members taking an opportunity to get engaged, which is really exciting. So we appreciate that, and you have the full board and admin support to kind of get us moving forward. Any other questions or discussion about that? Okay, we will move on to our liaison officer reports. Do we have anything from the Friends?
They are gonna have their book sale at the end of June, the last full week of June, and we will send you the dates, but they are, May 22nd is the Thursday night, and we'll go through Sunday the 25th. June. And that's exciting, and they switched their fiscal year. And that was a ton of work, so we are very happy for them, they were able to get it done.
You said 21st or 25th?
22nd, which is a Thursday.
How are they doing on materials for the book sale?
Not as many.
Yeah.
Not as many, so we still have 2 months, but it's a question.
No.
When students move out, do they, like grad students, people finishing their PhD, do they sometimes donate their books before they move to wherever?
They do, but they are not always book sale titles that will be
Right, yeah.
purchased.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. Yes, all right, makes sense.
Do you know how the Champaign Library, like if you just put the books in their book drop and they're not collection books, they just go to the Friends, is that the way it works for the Urbana Library too?
People just walk them up to the desk in circulation, or if they have a trunk load or so, we'll walk out to the car and get them. If it's a big, sometimes people give us 30 boxes or 30 bags, we'll schedule that with them so we can make sure we've got staff available to make it easy.
'Cause I know there's a lot of people out there that have books they wanna get rid of. So
Send them over here,
Yeah.
girl.
If you're just bringing a bag or two at a time, just walk them in.
Yeah.
So there is that piece, and then I can report for the foundation as well. Gloria could not be here today, but we have a report. Let's bring that up. The foundation board officers have been meeting monthly. They are currently accepting applications for new board members. They can have up to 15 people, and they don't have 15 people. And then as of April 10th, 2023, the foundation has raised just over $82,500 for this fiscal year. So that is excellent. We're grateful to them for their hard work.
Excellent. Okay, and John, do you have an IHLS update?
I don't. There was nothing momentous that seems to have happened in the last month.
We'll take that as a good sign. Let's see, Celeste, is there anything additional from the administrative report?
No.
Thank you. I don't believe we have any board or committee reports. As far as a board president report, I have nothing to add. Do we have any unfinished business tonight?
Just a rumor, there's gonna be some unicorns here.
Oh, yeah.
That's right, thank you. The Fairy Tale Ball this Friday from
Yes.
6 to 9.
6 to 9.
If you've never seen it, please come. It's amazing.
I'll try to come, I won't be able to stay, but I just wanna get pictures. and-
6:30 to 7:30 with the unicorns outside.
Oh, gosh.
I will be here. We are dressing up, my daughter and I,
Okay.
so I can't quite promise my 12-year-old will, but my 10-year-old is on board, so.
It is magical.
Okay.
Yeah. Fantastic, good announcement. Any unfinished business? We're good. Any new business to bring before the board tonight? All right. Hearing nothing, do we have a motion to adjourn tonight?
Move to adjourn.
Thanks, Sharice. Is there a second? Thanks, Jane. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.